Oliver goes fishing. On Oliver's branch line, Oliver loves looking forward to something what he likes looking forward to on his branch line. Bluebell Bridge, and every day in Bluebell Bridge the people go swimming with fishing nets. But every day Oliver says that he really wishes that he wants to stay there and watch people fishing, but his driver always says no. What will the fat controller say if we're late? But sometimes Oliver gets a little upset and never cares. One day he saw Neville at the station and spoke to Neville. I wish I could go fishing, he said. But Neville started to think that Oliver was rich. And Neville, the new engine, started to think that Oliver is being daft. So he said this to Oliver: "Engines don't go fishing. It makes them uncomfortable." "Silly stick in the mud," said Oliver. Neville didn't care. He just puffed away. Later, Oliver was about to take on water on the water tower when his driver saw a sign: "Out of order." There was not enough water for the yellow water tower for Oliver. Oliver was cross. "Out of order? It's not fair." "Don't worry, Oliver," said his driver. We'll go get some water from Bluebell Bridge," he said. "Then you'll feel much better." "Thank you," said Oliver, and Oliver puffed away backwards. They arrived back at Bluebell Bridge, and Oliver was excited. What the driver and fireman got out was their bucket. The bucket was old and had 4 holes on, and they had to dip it in the water, pull it quickly and back and into Oliver's tanks. And they took one more, and then seconds, and Oliver has finally got enough water and steam. "That will do," said Oliver, and Oliver puffed away, when suddenly he can feel a pain in his boiler, and the steam went on his safety valve as an alarm. Oliver was still in a pain in his boiler. We put too much water in your steam valve," said his driver. Oliver was scared. "Oh dear," he said. I'm going to burst, he said. Toad and Oliver's driver and fireman damped him down, and Oliver puffed away. They'd reached the last main line, and Oliver, still moaning about his pain, wanted to go in the siding. "Oh dear," he said. I'm gonna burst, said Oliver. They drove Oliver into the siding, uncoupled Toad, and they moved, and Oliver puffed away into a siding. He was put in a siding, and the driver and fireman phoned the Fat Controller and the railway inspector. Said the railway inspector. Pipes, eh, he said. But Oliver was still worried, and he started to cry. Don't worry, Oliver, said his driver. We'll soon put everything right for you, he said. But sir, said Oliver. Don't worry, said the Fat Controller. Everything's going to be okay. And it was. The Fat Controller gave the railway inspector a ladder. When the railway inspector climbed up, what he saw was something fishy and splashy in his tank. He nearly fell off when wet went all over his face. The railway inspector came down and said, Can you look in the tank for me? He said. Of course, Inspector, he said. The Fat Controller seen it and nearly fell down. Inspector, he said, can you see fish? Goodness gracious me, said the Fat Controller. How did the fish get there, driver? We must have fished them in the river with our bucket, said the driver and fireman. So you and your driver have been fishing, eh, Oliver? He said. But fish don't suit you, so we must get the fish out. And so the inspector and Oliver's fireman had to turn on in fishing. And so Oliver's driver and the railway inspector took turns of fishing in Oliver's tank. The Fat Controller showed him how to do it, and now the fishes were out. After Oliver was dumped down again, and then they had a lovely picnic meal with beans, fish and chips. That's good, said the Fat Controller, but remember, Oliver, he said, fish don't suit you, so you mustn't do it again. No, I won't, sir, said Oliver. Engines don't go fishing, it makes them uncomfortable, and it does. He was back to being with Toad again, and he was right. Fish don't suit engines, it makes them uncomfortable at all.